Have you ever seen a huge brand launch something and just immediately think to yourself, what on earth were they thinking? Yeah, it happens all the time, especially in fashion. You see these billion-dollar companies making these, super obvious cultural mistakes. But here's the thing. This isn't just about a few clumsy ads. Nope, it's a huge sign that the ground is shifting under the entire fashion world. Let's get into it.
So this is really the core question we're trying to answer here. And it's not just about, avoiding a PR nightmare. It's about a really fundamental shift in where culture and creativity are even coming from anymore. So to figure out the answer, we first have to understand the problem.
You probably remember this one. Back in 2018, Dolce & Gabbana dropped these ads showing a Chinese model really awkwardly trying to eat Italian food, like a cannoli with chopsticks. It just came across as super condescending, playing into all these tired, old stereotypes. And the result? A huge boycott, and their multi-million-dollar Shanghai fashion show got canceled. It was a totally self-inflicted disaster.
And it's not a one-off. Just a year later, in 2019, Kim Kardashian announces her new shapewear brand is going to be called Kimono. And she tried to trademark it, the name of a culturally vital traditional Japanese garment, for underwear. The backlash was immediate and global. Even the mayor of Kyoto wrote a letter. Unsurprisingly, the brand was very quickly renamed Skims.
And then again in 2022, Dior drops this skirt, and they're calling it, a hallmark Dior silhouette. But it looked almost exactly like a traditional Chinese Mami and Sean skirt. And look, the problem wasn't even the inspiration. It was the total lack of credit. It felt like they were just erasing the culture it came from. So there's a pattern here, right? And to understand why it keeps happening, we need to go back in time.
To really get this, we've got to go back to the first real shockwave that hit Western fashion's dominance. See, Japanese designers didn't just want to join the party. They basically rewrote the rules of the whole game. They turned clothes from just being pretty things into a whole philosophical statement. And this slide really gets to the heart of it. For centuries, Western fashion has been all about chasing perfection. Symmetry, glamour, clothes that are perfectly tailored to the body. But Japanese designers, working from this idea of wabi-sabi, did the complete opposite. They found beauty in what's not perfect, in asymmetry, in fabrics that look a little worn. They were designing the space between the body and the clothes. And this quote from the legendary Issey Miyake, wow, it just says it all. He wasn't seeing a dress as this finished thing designed to shape a woman's body. He saw his work as just a piece of cloth. The idea was to give the wearer total freedom. It's a complete 180 on what clothes are even supposed to be for.
Now, this influence didn't happen overnight. It started in '81, bam! Designers like Rei Kawakubo and Yohji Yamamoto hit Paris with these all-black, deconstructed collections that just blew everyone's minds. Then, by the '90s, that rebellious spirit moves from the runway to the streets, specifically the back streets of Harajuku. This Urahara movement basically wrote the original blueprint for all the luxury streetwear that we see everywhere today.
And out of that Urahara scene came something we all know very well today, hype culture. These guys invented the drop system, releasing super limited items at random times, and this completely changed the game. It shifted a product's value from what it does to what it means. You weren't just buying a t-shirt to wear it, you were buying it for the status, to be part of this exclusive club. Think about any Supreme or Yeezy drop, that's the legacy. All right, so that was shockwave number one. Now, let's fast forward to the next major force that's reshaping fashion, Korea. And they came at it from a totally different angle. If J Fashion was the deep, philosophical artist, K Fashion is the hypermodern, digital powerhouse. So here's the key difference, right? K Fashion wasn't born out of some intellectual, anti-fashion movement. It was more like a perfect storm of three things hitting all at once. First, an unbelievably fast and efficient manufacturing base right in Seoul. Second, the global explosion of K-pop. And third, the raw power of social media. And if you want to see this playbook in action, you absolutely have to look at Musinsa. Their story is like the perfect recipe for how to build a fashion empire in the 21st century by combining community, content, and then commerce. Just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, Musinsa's annual gross merchandise value is around $3 billion US. It is a genuine unicorn. And you want to know the crazy part? It all started as a little online forum called A Place with Tons of Sneaker Photos.
So what's the secret sauce? It's this. They didn't start by trying to sell you stuff. They started by building a playground, a place for fashion nerds to hang out, share photos, and talk about what they loved. They built this massive, super loyal community first. The commerce part? That came way, way later.
Moonsa are absolute masters at using psychology, specifically something called the bandwagon effect. Their website has these real-time rankings of what's selling. So think about it. If you're a guy in Korea and you're not sure what's cool, you go on Moonsina, you see what's at number 1, and boom, instant social proof. You feel confident buying it because you know everyone else is.
But here's the thing, Musinsa is so much more than just an online store now. They act like a venture capital firm, funding new and exciting brands. They run their own physical flagship stores. And they're a launch pad for helping K-fashion brands go global. They're not just playing in the ecosystem, they're basically building the entire thing.
Okay, so we've seen these two massive new centers of gravity in fashion. Let's circle back to where we started. How can big Western brands engage with other cultures without messing up? Well, it really all boils down to understanding the massive difference between two key ideas.
And this table really breaks it down. On one side, you have appreciation. That's about learning, giving credit, working with the community, sharing the profits. It's a two-way street. On the other side, you've got appropriation. And that's just taking. Taking the cool visuals without any of the context, reinforcing stereotypes, and making money without cutting in the people who created it. One's a conversation, the other is a monologue.
So how do you stay on the right side of that line? Well, here's a pretty simple 3-step plan. First, do your homework. And I mean real homework. Go deep. Understand the history, the meaning, the things you should not touch. Second, get the right people in the room. You need people from that culture on your team, making decisions. And third, test it out locally. Before you launch a global campaign, get feedback from the actual audience you're trying to connect with.
And this really leaves us with a big, kind of tricky question for the future. The line between being inspired and just taking something is getting blurrier all the time. In a world where an idea can cross the globe in a millisecond, we have to be so much more thoughtful. It's not about putting up walls around cultures, right? It's about building respectful bridges between them. But how do we make sure those bridges are built the right way? I'm curious to know what you think.